Thanks so much for everyone for being here so early. We're going to get started in probably another 5 minutes or so. If there are any things you are hoping to get out of today's session, please feel free to drop them in the chat and we will do our best to cover them. If you just want to say where you're calling in from, say hello to your fellow Captivate users, feel free to do that as well. Hey Dan, thanks for hopping on.
Early today.
Oh yeah.
I had one more.
That's good information, Dan. It is playoff season. Hopefully we might not need to get to the beta. We'll see how long. Hopefully the playoff run will last long enough where it will just be the release that you can use. But we will see.
Raheem is coming. I'm gonna let him in.
Hey Brian, great to have you here. How's it going, Raheem? Hey, we're doing good. Happy to be here.
Very good. It's gonna be a good one today.
You haven't seen it yet. Could be terrible. Only I know.
That's true.
Only
I
I
have
know
it
how
built
today's
up in
gonna
my
go.
mind how good it's
Yeah,
gonna be.
exactly. You've hyped it up. You know how they've been in the past.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Raheem. I'll look into that. I appreciate it. I'm ready, Jacob. I want to know. I want to know how to
All
do
right, you want
this.
to do it? All right,
Sponsors. Yeah, let's do
let's
it.
do it. All right, 3 p.m. right on the dot, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. Well, thank you for being here. We wouldn't do them if nobody showed up, so it's great to have you guys here. And especially to those keep coming back, we're trying to make it as much of a resource as we can for you guys to learn as much as you possibly can about New Blue. My name's Jacob Vernick. I'm a engineer here at New Blue. I will be your guide today as we go through this Discover Captivate webinar together. Today's session, we're doing it a little bit differently. We're kind of taking it from a little bit different approach today because today's session is all about sponsors. They're across the entire sports ecosystem. None of the productions that anybody does would be possible without them. And there are so many different creative and impactful ways to be able to incorporate them into your live stream that we thought we'd kind of tackle that today and look at different ways, either using Captivate templates, using media sequences, or building your own graphics that we can make these kind of sponsor activations feel natural, professional, and valuable for both your audience and advertisers. So whether you're looking up to level up your current sponsor integrations, or maybe you just want to see Captivate in action for the first time, or maybe this is completely irrelevant to you and you want to put something in the chat that is more relevant to you, we'll tackle that at the end as well. So let's get started. There is a link to a free trial in the chat if you want to follow along. If you already have your account and you want to follow along, feel free as well. And if not, this is being live streamed to YouTube. This is being recorded. You can always refer back to it whenever you want if there's something that catches your eye. So let's dive in together here. Just gonna optimize my video real quick if I can.
I know. I feel like
Uh,
they may have moved to that setting.
I think they did move it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, no worries. We'll figure that out later. So let's get rocking and rolling. So today, what we're going to look at, I figure baseball, softball season is coming up. So we're going to take it from a little bit of a baseball, softball approach. So where we're going to, this is a built project that has some of these ideas. We can post this project to our webinars page when we are done if you are interested in kind of grabbing some of these assets. Where we can start, maybe you have a keys to the game kind of graphic. This is going to be a template. We'll walk through how you can grab this from your library. This can be presented by any of your sponsors, right? Maybe you want to have your starting lineups. There are so many great pregame elements that you can use to activate your sponsors, whether that's, the starting lineup, again, the keys to the game, or just some stats that you want to show before the game starts. Keeping it simple, right? Maybe we've got some sort of bug that we want to use, a station bug, a company bug. We have the classic commercial, right? If you have an MP4, an MOV file that you want to play in the middle of the game, right? All sorts of different transitions. Maybe you want to use this as a transition before going into your commercials. Maybe you want to have your bumpers, right, be brought to you by someone. But also there's during the game. Maybe during the game you want a scoreboard slide out. So that's something will just slide out of the scoreboard by one of your sponsors. And you can set the duration on it so that after 10 seconds, that graphic is going to disappear all on its own. And then finally, there are all these big moments in the game that can be brought to you by someone, right? Whether that's a three-pointer, whether that's a goal, a touchdown, a home run. We'll take a look at how to build a custom graphic that can be triggered every time there is a specific moment in a game. So we're going to build all this from scratch today, go each element one by one. If there are any questions, I will be monitoring the chat more towards the end. But if something urgent comes up, Naomi will interrupt me and let me know that there's something for us to cover. So let's open up a new project. And again, we'll start from scratch right here. I'm going to just get a blank Captivate window. Here we go. So if you are new to Captivate, one thing to be aware of, Captivate runs on both Windows and Mac. I'll be doing this on a Mac today, but everything you see in one will be the same in the other, and they are fully cross-compatible. I will be demoing today with Captivate Broadcast, but nothing I will be showing today will be a limitation and stop you from using this in Captivate Sport as well. All the different panels we have here. We have our project panel over here. This is where all of our graphics, all of our assets are going to live. This is where we're going to start to build out our project and all of the different elements we want in our project. Captivate, for all of your different, maybe events, maybe different sports, you can save different files to your desktop, your documents, your downloads, and all of those different project files can serve as each individual game. So you don't have to come in, build everything from scratch each time. You save out a project file, you can use separate them out, and then have a basketball, a baseball, etc., all ready to go. Captivate, we're going to close out of these for now. We're going to come over here and open up our library. So our library has tons of different types of graphics. It is a great place to be able to start if you want to explore what is already available. The number one way I learned how to use the title designer for Captivate was by reverse engineering the graphics that were already in the title designer, excuse me, already in the library. I brought them into the title designer, examined them, and then went and built them on my own. And that was the best resource I had in kind of getting used to this software and learning how to use the title designer. Today, we're going to be mostly exploring the sports libraries here. So I'm going to come over here into my sports library, and we're going to use the acrylic one today. The first place to start, the easiest way to get a sponsor graphic going with Captivate is going to be with a graphic that is already designed to have a sponsor in it. So if I take this acrylic sponsor message graphic right here, this is the one we were looking at just a little bit earlier, your keys to the game. And the way it comes out is game changers presented by New Blue Effects, and then you can enter what you want into all of those different lines. And you can also customize what the logo and what the color are going to be. To get this graphic into my switcher, to get this out as NDI, SDI, or HDMI, I just have to click on this play button right here. That's going to trigger that graphic. It is now being sent to my program monitor, and it is now going to wherever it needs to go. Clicking on play again will turn it off. Down here in my properties panel, so if I wanted to open this, we've got our properties panel and all of our different panels up here in the toolbar. I can open my properties panel and then make some quick changes in this live values tab. For this one, you probably only need the live values tab. It doesn't need to be driven by data. It can probably just be updated before the game right here. So let's say, we want to change this to say keys to the game. All of that is going to update in real time. I just hit enter on my keyboard when I'm done, and voila, keys to the game is updated. I can change who this is presented by. I can come in and add a custom New Blue logo. And now I've got my graphic set. I talked to the commentators before the game. I asked them what their three keys to the game are. I trigger this during the pregame, and great. We have our sponsor activation number one. New Blue presents the keys to the game. That's a pretty easy one, right? That one already built for you. All you have to do is come in and type in a couple of things. Let's do another kind of easy one and another kind of traditional one too, which is going to be a commercial break. Captivate might seem primarily like it is for playing graphics, just lower thirds, scoreboards, but obviously there is so much more in here as well. One of those things is the media sequencer. That is one of the features that is only currently coming with Captivate Broadcast, but can be bought as an add-on to Captivate Sport, and you can still import individual media items into Captivate Sport as well. If I come down here to add new item, and then I go to media sequence, that is going to build me a new media sequence where I have my properties panel right here. One way to add new videos is going to be your plus button down here. So this will open up a window where I can select some videos, or you can just go to your Finder on your computer, find where those files are located, and then drag and drop them. So I'm going to do it that way. So I pull this up. I've got my 4 videos right here. I select all 4 videos, drag and drop them in there, and now I have a 4 video media sequence. Sorry, I'm having some troubles with my mouse right now. Down here, what is the information that we get in our media sequence, right? We have the duration of the individual video assets. We have the transition time and then the transition, right? So it is by default set to none. If you double click on it, it will give you your options. So maybe you want it to crossfade, right? That's going to be a mix right here. So if you click on mix after this asset is over, it will mix into the next one. If you want to use any sort of different transition, you can always come into add new item, transition, and then have at it. There are so many different things here. You probably want to keep it simple with something like a smooth dissolve. But if you add that smooth dissolve into your project, you come back down here. Now you can just click smooth, and that will add that transition in between your graphics. And then you have this right here as the transition time. And now you can see when you click on play right here, it is going to just play your assets one by one. There's our little mix transition. Now we'll do a smooth crossfade into the next one. And then anything that is set to none is going to not is just going to cut from asset to asset. So a traditional commercial break right there. Down here, at the bottom of our screen, we have a couple of options. So if I click on this arrow right here, when you start your media sequence, should it start from the beginning? Should it resume from the last position? Should it play in sequence order or a random order? And when it's done, should it repeat the sequence? Should it hold on the final item? or should it just shut it down altogether? All of those configurable in your media sequence right here. You can always add new items by dragging and dropping or clicking on the plus, or you can delete items by clicking on the trash can right here. So that is going to be your more traditional commercial break. Let's keep going, right? There are going to be some other ways that we maybe want to add a graphic in. Maybe one example I was talking about was more of like a stinger, right? Maybe a wipe, something like that. So I'm going to leave the acrylic folder for now, and I'm going to go into the stingers. You can think of these as wipes, media wipes, transition effects, however you want, whatever you want to call them. Traditionally, these are used between live sources, right? Or maybe you're using it between live and instant replay, as you can see, kind of evidenced by this instant replay one right here. If you're unaware, these can map to the shortcuts on an ATEM via our integration with ATEM. So if you wanted to make it so when you press a wipe button on a Blackmagic Design ATEM switcher, it can call one of our transitions and play that instead of doing the wipe or fade or slide effect that the ATEM is configured to do. I'm going to bring this one in because I do think these can be kind of configured as well to be great sorts of uh, sponsor elements, right? And I can click on play right here, and you can see it's going to just play it. It's going to cut. But I see this as a good element that we can actually turn into a more traditional graphic. One thing you'll notice about this sponsor message, right? When I click on play right here, it stays on the screen until I tell it to go off by clicking on play again. But when I click on my stinger right here, it's done, right? Because we don't want a stinger necessarily to linger. We want it to just wipe between my two shots. However, with our sponsors, we probably want them to get a little bit more screen time. So one thing we can do, if we take this and we click on edit, we can go into the title designer. And I don't know how familiar you are with the title designer. We'll talk a little bit more about this as we go. But the difference, one of the main differences between the title designer, between a transition and a graphic is what this marker right here says. Typically, when you're in a graphic, this is going to say pause because we want it to pause at that point. But in a transition like this, it says cut because that is the cut point. That is where we want the two videos that are happening behind it to cut. But what I want to do is I'm actually just going to change this to pause. And when I come down here and I click on the checkbox right here, you can see that this transition smooth right here has this orange because it is still a transition. But now this is closer to the acrylic sponsor message. It has the blue, which means it is a graphic. So when I click on play, it is going to freeze at that moment and it is going to stay on until I tell it to go off. And we can do things like triggering the media sequence under it. We could maybe make the color more opaque so that the media sequence is playing already, but we don't see it underneath the transition like we did right there. And then again, we just choose our image, and now we've got another sponsor in there for this graphic. So just as an example, now we've got the new blue logo. Our commentators are about to maybe throw to commercial. We click on play again, and now we're into our commercial. Something along those lines is a great way to be able to, again, activate your sponsors. Let's keep going. Maybe we want to make some more custom changes to a graphic, right? Maybe we said this game, this is going to be from a baseball perspective. And one thing that I noticed watching a ton of professional sports, there are so many opportunities in your pregame coverage, if you have the luxury of having some commentators, to do these kind of sponsorship moments. So maybe your lineup is brought to you by someone, right? So let's come in here. Let's look for a baseball lineup. We got one right here. Bring it into the project by dragging and dropping. And now we're all set. Now, if you've been on enough of these webinars, you've heard me say our templates are fantastic as inspiration. They can be the be all end all. They can be exactly what you use in your productions, but they can also be 90%. They can be 60%. They can be 20%. And then you can come in and design and add exactly what you want it to be. So for example, this graphic does not have a sponsorship element in it, but that doesn't mean we can't add one, right? So let's take this into the title designer and add a sponsorship element to it. So I've got my baseball lineup right here. Again, clicking on edit down in my project panel, I'm going to take this into the designer. Now we have a bunch of different things we can look at here. Up here, this is our canvas, right? This menu up here is our canvas. This is where we're going to design each element and move everything around. Down here is our timeline. You will notice right off the bat, this one says pause because this is going to stay on the screen. This is more of a traditional graphic by default, which is just going to stay on the screen until you tell it to go off. Now, all I want to do is maybe add a little presented by New Blue to the bottom of this graphic. So what am I going to do? I'm going to click into my element. You'll notice the first thing I actually click into right here is my stripe mask. So there's a couple of different elements that I actually need to expand. Let's expand the stripe mask a little bit first. Then I'm going to come in here and expand my background. And you can see that right there. The mask is covering it, it's doing a great job, right? So I've got my stripes coming down, I've got my background coming down. So now I've got my background extended out, and I had to do that by extending the two different layers. The stripes layer, you can see it already exists, but it's got a mask on top of it that is keeping it in that area. So I've got my background right here, and now I want to add in some information. I want to have it say presented by New Blue, right? So I'm going to come up here and add some text. I'm going to make this static text because presented by language is never going to have to change, right? It's always going to say presented by. So when I click on add text, I get this guy right here. I'm going to type in presented by. That is way too big. So let's change our font to good old Gotham Bold. And then we'll maybe make this 14. That looks great to me. We'll click out of there. We'll move this around. Perfect. We'll do some good, we can rename our layers down here. So if I control click, I can rename this. Presented by, though, is pretty descriptive of what I needed to say. So I'm going to leave that as is. And then I can adjust this on my timeline as well. So maybe I want it to start right when this title and image are going to come on and off. And then if I click on this down arrow, I'm just going to steal the transition effects from these. So when I click on the down arrow of any layer, I can see how it animates in and out. So this top rectangle up here, this has a grow effect on it. But the image and the title up here have a fade in, right? So I'm going to just take the fade in for now. I'm going to right click on it and then come down here to copy transition. And then I'm going to click into presented by, paste transition is in, control click, paste transition is out. And now I've got my fade in, fade out onto this. Now I'm going to do the same thing. Let's add in an image for this right-hand side right here. So I'm going to add in an image. My number one recommended way to do this is to add a shape for that image. So I'm going to add a rectangle right down here. And I'm going to just put it to be the size that I want. Maybe something like this. Now this is just a white rectangle, which is obviously not what I want. So in our layer tab, we'll come back over to style. And right here, you can see we've got a few different elements that we can update. We've got color, gradient. What I want is an image. So I'm going to add this image in. I'm going to use no, not that one. This one. Yeah. And there we go. We've got a few different elements. If I click right here on variable, that means maybe our sponsor isn't always New Blue. Maybe it's being brought to us by Scorebird this week. Maybe it's being brought to us by someone else. I can come without having to come into the title designer, excuse me. I can just make this change of what that element is back in the playout window that we were just on previously. So you don't have to come in, redesign everything. No. Everything's going to stay right here. You also get the options right here for fit, fill, or stretch. So if your graphic is not doing what you want it to do, you can adjust those right here as well. And then just to keep things simple, to keep things easy to follow, I'm going to just adjust this to call this my sponsor image so that I know what it's going to say out there. I'm going to do the same thing as the presented by right here. Maybe I'll make it come in a little bit later, add a little bit of flair. And maybe I want to use a different transition effect. I don't want to just take the fade in. Maybe I wanted to do something a little bit more special. If I click out on this arrow right here, I'm going to get a whole bunch of folders. Now, I'm not expecting you to go through all of these folders, but where it may be useful for you to go is in this drop down, you go to transitions and then animations. We'll have a ton of different sorts of transition effects, right? So maybe I want this to fly in or to drop from the sky or to bubble or to slide or to slam. These are great places for you to start. And if you hover over it, you'll get a preview of what it's going to look like when you drag it onto your graphic. We'll spend a little bit more time with these in the home run activation piece of this. For now, I'm just going to maybe take these fade in and fade out just to keep the webinar moving. One thing I always want to make sure of, I don't want my transitions ever to interact with the pause point. Because if I move my fade out over here, you can see right here at the pause point, my graphic has already started to fade. So that means when I click on play on this graphic, it's already going to be fading out when it stops on the screen, which is not what I want. So it's a good, you always want to make sure your animations are on either side of the pause point. So let's see what we've got here. I click on check. This will render out. We will play. And now we've got another pregame element all ready to go in our uh, for our sponsors. Animates in. We've got our presented by New Blue. Fades out, animates out, right? That's a easy one, but now we want to move into the game. Let's move into the game and talk about a few different ways we can do this. So I'm going to come in here and grab my scoreboard for baseball, my acrylic library right here. And now we've got a scoreboard. So some of the best pieces of Captivate right here is the ability for this to all be driven by data. So whether that is a hardware scoreboard like a Daktronics Fairplay OES, whether data is a StatCrew scoreboard or a JSON file or a Google Sheet or a Excel, CSV, or just a clock, right? There's so many different things that your data can be so that you don't need to have someone sitting and typing everything manually if it's already being done somewhere else. Some people don't have the luxury of being able to integrate with some sort of hardware scoreboard on site. That is why the Captivate scoreboard tool exists. So if I come down here to scoreboard tool and go to baseball, now I have a full way to be able to control the game within Captivate. I can also kick this out to a user on the same network. If they are on an iPad, an iPhone, a laptop, whatever it is, they can drive the score while I choose what graphics are going live. Again, I click on play right here, and now I've got this graphic in here. There's two quick elements that I'm going to show you that we're going to add in here. One is going to be just maybe a quick drop down from the scoreboard. And then the second one will be the home run graphic, right? So let's start with the quick drop down. First thing I'm going to do here is actually duplicate this because I'm going to make this as a separate graphic, but I'm going to use the scoreboard as, this is kind of where I want it to be. So I'm just going to remove the data controller, click on edit. And now the first thing I want to do, I'm just going to add a mask around where the scoreboard is. I just want to make sure that when I'm animating my graphic, it's not going to cover the scoreboard, right? I want to make sure that we're not going to see it in anything I do. There's a little there. So how do I make a mask? I'm going to come over here to effects and then click on mask, right? So that is going to say, hey, this is the only area where I want to see specific things. This is the only area where our graphic should show. And actually, this is not the mask I want to build. I only want it to show down here, right? I'm only going to have my graphic show down here. Let's invert this for now, just so that I can actually start building out my graphic and know kind of what I'm seeing. So, or hold on. Well, how do I want to do this? We'll build our mask a little bit later. I'm going to do this a different way. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to add a shape. I'm going to add a rectangle. And now I'm just going to position this where I want it to kind of slide out from. And I'm just going to do this quick and dirty and get it as close to exact as we can. But we can always come back and tidy this up a little bit later. Yeah, that's good for now. So we've got this little drop down. Maybe we'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay. And now I want to add in my sponsor image. I could either make this one or two elements. It's up to you. I'll show you really quickly how to make it just one single element. If I click right here on plus style element, I can make it so it has this white background. And in the same element, if I add another 3D face, we get 3D face one right here. I can now add in this image and add in the New Blue logo once again, right in here. Oop, I'm doing something wrong. Well, let's not do it that way. Let's add another layer in. We're going to come back here. We're going to add in this rectangle right here. And now we're going to add in an image and add in the logo. There we go. This one I'm going to make it fit rather than fill. So we'll keep it a little bit smaller. And then I kind of want it to come out from under the scoreboard, right? I want it to kind of come out from behind, make it look like it's kind of coming out from under from behind. So I'm going to add in a couple of animations right here, but also I'm just gonna, well, I'll delete the scoreboard in a little bit later. So let's add in our animations right here. Transitions, animations, and we're gonna have this fly in, and we're gonna have it kind of like fall like that. Falling letters, falling words, very similar. So we're just gonna add this to both of them as the in point. We're gonna make sure it doesn't go into our pause point. Copy this transition, paste it as the out, and then do the same thing right here. Shorten this up, and then we'll just paste this transition as the out. All right. Now we've got our graphic kind of flying in. We need to add in our mask now to make sure that, we're only going to see it where we want. So we can come in right here and just add in this mask. And we'll kill this a little bit. And then we will just highlight all these layers that we no longer need. Keep doing that. And I can do that by just kind of coming in here and whoop. There we go. Sorry, my mouse is really acting up right now on me. There we go. We got all our layers highlighted, and now we can delete all of our scoreboard objects right here. And now we've got just our mask and the graphic flying in. So let's click on the checkbox right here. We've got our scoreboard, and now we've got our sponsorship message. One last thing we talked about was, hey, I know I want this to play 10 seconds. I don't want to have to fix this every time. We've got our duration field. If you're not seeing this in Captivate, you can always right click kind of on the project panel right here, and then you'll get an option for all of the different options that are available to you. Maybe you want to hide some of these that you don't want to see. Maybe you want to see some that you don't. But if I just want this to show for 10 seconds every single time, just because we're doing a demo, we'll do 5 right now. Click on play. Now we never have to worry. This graphic will always play off after 5 seconds. All right. Last element we're going to do right here is just going to be the home run graphic, right? So this is pretty simple. We're just going to do this one quickly, but then we're going to talk about maybe how we can connect this to something like Companion so that when you press one button, it's going to automatically play both your home run graphic and drive your scoreboard to add in a home run. So let's open up, let's duplicate this graphic again. And let's again disconnect. And now let's open this up in the title designer. These graphics do already by default have a home run trigger, right? It is a yellow box that pops up over that says home run. I don't see a sponsorship, right? We want to figure out a way to maybe get a little bit of a sponsorship into here. So what I'm going to do that, let's just get rid of these guys. I'm just going to start by adding a rectangle that's going to cover up my full scoreboard. Because that's how I want my element to work. A lot of times, if you're looking at these kinds of activations, whatever you want to call them, big moments in the game where something is being triggered, sometimes they cover up the scoreboard and they replace the scoreboard. Sometimes they take up the bottom of the screen and they kind of rise up and they're a lower third. There's so many different ways to approach big moments in a game and how you highlight them. This is just one way that we are showcasing today. So I'm going to delete all of this. The only thing I really need right now is this rectangle. So let's delete out our full scoreboard. All right. This is the area where our scoreboard is going to be. Let's make this a quick gradient. We can do this however we want, right? Maybe it's going to be a 3-color gradient with a little bit of blue. Maybe we can incorporate some of our colors in here, right? So maybe a blue here. Maybe in the middle, we want to do a darker blue just to give a little bit more of like a metallic effect. And then down here at the bottom, we'll come back to maybe that lighter blue, something like this. Again, feel free to play around, just giving you the tools that I don't know how to use too well, but maybe you are better at taking the tools in the toolbox and making something beautiful. We've got our graphic right here. Now, this graphic is actually not something I want to pause at all. This is something I want to play through the entire way, right? So we've talked about the cut, we've talked about the pause, we've not talked about the nothing. I'm going to backspace right there and just remove it because I want this graphic to just play through the entire way. I don't want it to stop at all. I'm going to come to my timeline. We can make this timeline longer right here. So let's say I want this total graphic to be about 7 seconds. Click on the minus right here to zoom out on our timeline. And let's drag this rectangle all the way out. All right, a couple more elements we're going to add. I'm going to add a text layer, static text right here. That's going to say home run. We're going to do the same kinds of fonts. Adjust them down to size. We can go a little bit bigger than that. And we'll change this to be black. We're going to work on the timing of everything in a second. So let's do it now. We can come into here. Let's grab this home run. I only wanted to say home run at the beginning. So I'm going to end it right there. After it says home run, we're going to have that little presented by come in. So we'll come over here and we'll add another layer of text, static text. We'll have this say presented by. And I know we're going a little bit longer than we usually do, but hopefully that's a good thing and not when can I get out of here kind of thing. I'm having fun. So we'll get our presented by up there. Again, we're going to adjust the length right here. And then finally, we are going to add in the new blue logo. We talked about how to do this. Add in a rectangle and then fit it to size. There are a bunch of different ways you can do this. I'm choosing to build it out as a separate graphic. If you watch some of our other older ones, you can see how to do it as a visibility variable so that every time a home run is triggered by the scoreboard, it automatically plays. I'm just showing you, kind of an alternative way if you want to make it as a separate graphic and have a little bit more control. Maybe you want like a home and away. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this, but this is just another way to kind of accomplish a similar goal to other webinars we've talked about in the past. So presented by New Blue, we're going to leave this one on the fill. And now it's just about adding in our transition effects, right? I think with something like this, maybe we want it to be a little more loud, a little more gaudy, whatever you want to say. So I was playing around with some slams, right? Maybe having the rectangle kind of slam or bounce in there, right? So we can drag and drop this. Maybe we want the home run probably to come in a little bit later, right? We don't want the home run to come in until this lands in there. So we'll move this up a little bit here. And there are thousands of things in here that you can play with of how it's going to animate, how it's going to fly in. Uh, let's make these splat, right? They're coming in from the left-hand side. And again, we don't have to worry about pause points, so these transitions can be however long we want them to be. I also like adding effects into these, right? So rather than just using transitions, there are so many more effects in here too. So if I came into animations, right, I want the text to wobble. And you can see I'm getting a little bit of a preview of what's happening with it every time. Oh, I like that popping letters. That's a good one. So now if I want to preview kind of what I've done, oh, got to render out. There we go. It's going to slam in. Our home run's going to fly in. Let's click on the checkbox right here. Let's rename this home run home. We've got our scoreboard. Someone's going to hit a home run. Ha ha ha. One thing to learn, this whole project panel right here is hierarchical. Whatever's on the bottom is going to show below, as you just saw when I just did that. What I wanted to do is show on top. So I'm going to drag this all the way up to the top. Click on play. There is a home run presented by New Blue, and then we will animate off. Last piece of this, I want to do one button press in Companion that is going to both update my scoreboard and it's going to trigger this graphic. How can I do something like that? Let's see if I've got Companion all working right here. Looks good to me. So I'm going to bring up a companion page right here. If you guys are not familiar, BitFocus Companion is a great tool to be able to actually operate Captivate, control some specific pieces of data, whatever you want to do with it, there are ways to do it. So you just connect right here to the new blue Captivate connection. Come over here to buttons. Let's add in a new button right here. I'm going to create one from scratch. We do have great presets over here, though, if you want to not create them from scratch, if you just want to play out some graphics. So coming back to this button, I'm going to click on my folder right here. And what I'm going to look for is my baseball scoreboard tool. And we're going to look for home run, home. Click on that. That adds it in there, right? And now the second piece I want to do is also play the layer. I want to make sure that this layer is going to play when I click on this. The home run home layer is going to animate. One thing I also want to do, I don't want the score to change before the graphic comes in. So I'm going to call the graphic. I'm going to click right here. We're going to go to the internal ones, the internal companion ones, and we're going to add in a wait. So we're going to say, hey, before you actually update the scoreboard, wait a couple seconds, right? So this is all in milliseconds. We'll say this is 2000. Now let's drag this down and let's see what we've done. When I click on test right here, it is going to call that graphic. It is going to play. I need to tell it to wait a little bit longer, but now the score is updating. The graphic is triggered. It's doing everything you need it to do, all with one button press. So that's the real power of actually being able to use Companion or a Stream Deck to actually operate your graphics. Oh, I need to move the wait here. So let's take a look one more time. What we're telling it is play that graphic, wait 2 seconds, and then update our score. So we click on test, plays the graphic. Now the score is going to update under it so that after the score is done, it is already going to say 2-0. There we go. So that is today's session. A little bit longer than usual. I will pop now over to the chat and see if there's anything we want to talk about. Companion is a lifesaver. Love to hear that. Playing around with buttons. Fantastic. I've heard great things about buttons. Glad to hear you guys are using that. I haven't gotten it. I haven't gotten to play with it yet. I gotta make sure I get my hands on some buttons. But yeah, again, any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I hope you got something out of today's session. If you didn't, I'm sorry. Uh, all right. Captivate can handle 16 channels. What kind of computer would that require? Tried a 16-channel movie recorder, but it wouldn't work more than 8 channels. How can one person manage 16 channels? Great question. It can handle 16 channels. I don't know necessarily that we expect people to use 16 channels. It can go, it is NDI 16 channels. I'd love to know what your kind of use case would be for it. How can someone operate it? Probably using Companion, but I would want to know, I guess, how you would use 16 channels before I say the best way to operate it. A 16-channel movie recorder, but it wouldn't work with more than 8 channels. Yeah, I think I'd need to know a little bit more about how we're using that. Brian, we are aware of that. Please, that is us. If you reach out to us, we can get you a version that will not do that. What
And
kind of compu Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, Hunter was asking what kind of computer that would
Yeah,
require.
I just realized that. Were you going to add something or were you just telling me to?
No, but we get that question a lot.
Yeah,
And
for
that's an
sure.
excellent question because not many people think of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I- the kind of computer is, I mean, it's probably going to depend again. Are you using it to send out 16 channels of NDI camera feeds? Are you using it to send out just a lower third on each channel? I think I would need to, you're using 6 channels at once via SDI. The Fusion hardware can only support 2 channels at once for SDI. For NDI, we can support up to 16. And the software, I guess, with multiple Decklink cards can, but the actual Fusion 3 hardware only has 2 channels out. Yeah, 2 Decklink cards for sure, but the Fusion hardware. Uh, and just so you guys know, Raheem is message Raheem, if you want to switch over to everyone so everyone can see your messages, that might help. Fusion NDI comes with a 10 gigabit card. Thank you, Ian. So yeah, a 10 gigabit NIC card is a great way to ensure that you can send out 16 channels as NDI. But yeah, Hunter, I'd want to know a little bit more as to what the goal with 16 channels would be so that we just know, so I can
Also,
better advise you.
yeah, using a ton of media clips. If you're playing out a ton of media
Yeah.
clips, how big are they? What is their storage size? All that.
Yeah, there's some, it's definitely not a one size fits all kind of answer. We do have our minimum recommended specs, uh, but you know, it's going, I can give you those minimum recommended specs, but it's going to be kind of dependent on each use case. Fair enough. Yeah. Uh, th for 16 channels for SDI, you would use multiple Blackmagic cards or some sort of expanded PCIe card. Uh, right. So, again, while it does support up to 16 channels, uh, I don't necessarily know that most people would ever need 16 channels. That is correct, Brian. It's a version of a companion that we can send to you that doesn't skip the lines. So let me just drop my email in the chat. If you could just follow up with me after this, we can get you a version that will not skip the lines with the spreadsheet button for companion. Yeah, there you go. 8 channels of NDI, 1 channel per room. That's a great use case for multiple channels. And Raheem's too, where he's sending out for do we have that for buttons as well? I believe the profile. You know what? That's a great question, Brian. I don't know that off the top of my head. I'll double check. I don't know if they're the same or different, if I'm being honest. I haven't played around with buttons enough to know. So let me get back to you on that. Are you using Captivate Companion with buttons today, Brian? You are? Then yeah, then yes, I have a version. Great. Then I will, yeah, then I will have something for you. Yeah, there you go. Raheem is running 3 Zoom guests, 1 live in studio camera feed, 4 SDI channels right there. That's fantastic. And then Captivate is just ingesting the Zoom, sending it out to the ATEM, if I'm not mistaken, over the Decklink cards.
Awesome, Raheem. I know Dan mentioned the beta earlier. This is in case anybody else wants to get on our beta program. If you write into that, and then we can send you the most updated version that's going on. Um, it is a separate license than the regular Captivate, so you can have it on the system at the same time. We're testing leaderboards and a new crawl system right now. I don't know if anybody here was at our new feature. Jacob did an awesome demoing the new features that are in that beta that we're getting close to releasing, so close. So if anybody's interested in that, go ahead and write in.
All right, folks. But did I miss anything?
Brian had
Correct
one
flag
question.
stutter when we have full screen camera or not using the switcher live though, using it as the video source in graphics. Any ideas? Brian, let's offline about that. I don't know necessarily that I can troubleshoot that for you here. Doesn't ring any bells. Um, but like understanding like SDI, NDI, yeah, we'll just shoot me an email after this and we can connect on everything we need to. Uh, thanks, Raheem. It was great to have all of you here. Thanks so much for sticking around. We'll be posting this to YouTube soon.
I'm gonna this is our event schedule. We have one tentative up there, but this is in case you are intending on um or want to attend any of these, our sales team's going to be there. The only one that's tentative is the September 11th through the 14th in Salt Lake City. That is still tentative as of right now. But we will be at IBC later on this year, so I can change that out. But just so you guys know, so you can see what's coming up in the next few months. You can get questions answered live. You can see what's new, what things are in the works, planning that might not be released, just for your resources.
Brian, Ian will be walking around InfoCom, but we will not be having a booth this year.
Yeah, come on down, Dan. Come on down.
All right, folks, this was a great one today. Thank you so much for being so active in the chat. We look forward to having you at the future. And as we always say, if you have ideas for things that you want to see in upcoming webinars, please let us know. We are happy to build these towards our customers. We want to make sure you're getting something out of it. So thank you so much. You can reach out to any of us over email. You can join the beta. You can get a free trial. You can do whatever you need to do with NewBlue. Thanks so much for joining, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great one.